Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the farm. Great news, the grain train is in, which means we'll probably be picking some corn for half price drying today. When I say probably, I'd put the percentage at maybe a 60 to 65% chance, although I think it's very likely that we will be picking some corn. Nothing's guaranteed in life, especially not on the farm. Almost anything could happen. Most of them are unpredictable. Meteor could hit today. Bill Gates could show up and buy our whole farm out from under us with our crop for $100,000 an acre. We'd probably at least consider that one. But it's looking like we're gonna have the combines out, which means I really need to get my act together. I'm uncharacteristically far behind here in my preparations. I've got radio stuff to do. I need to do some stuff in the grain cart, so we probably need to dive into that. That way we are ready if we head to the field. Before we get started on our exciting harvesting work for the day, everyone make sure you hit that like button and leave a comment down below. It is one of the easiest and cheapest ways that you can support the channel. Every time you interact with a video, it helps me out a ton, and I am greatly appreciative. Let's get to work. Our Midland radio setup in the S780 is completely done. We've got the radio, the antenna, all of that jazz. We have a radio in the S670, but we don't have the antenna attached yet. We don't even have it, so it's hard to do that. I may bridge that gap until it shows up with a handheld radio, or I might put one of our lower gain antennas on the roof. And then the 9460R, my grain cart tractor, has nothing in it right now. I'm gonna put the 40-watt radio in, and then I need to install something else that I don't think I can drive without. Okay, Dad, geez. That seems a little unnecessary. Harvesting a John Deere tractor? It is green and yellow, so the color's right. The crop isn't. I'm incredibly excited at the prospect of harvesting some crops today, but everyone be cautiously optimistic. I don't want to get everyone else's hopes up because I've already done it to myself. I'll only be heartbroken if we don't do anything. Let's pop the barn doors open and get this stuff out. Got interrupted by the boss.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think there's green pods, do you?
No. There's some green stems, but just a green pod here and there.
They're dry.
Well, if we come out here to cut it, we may just have to leave the hill and cut the low spots because you can see from here the lows are a lot drier. Get a little moisture check on some soybeans. It's first thing in the morning, so they're usually a little bit higher in moisture percentage. The most versatile moisture tester you have is in your mouth. It's your teeth. Soft but firm. Well, this has been an unexpected development. We may be cutting beans, not picking corn. They look like they'd cut. Whether or not they'd actually test moisture-wise is a different story. We would be putting them in a grain bin, which gives us a ton more flexibility than if we were taking them to the elevator. Well, if you're going to switch one combine, which one would it be?
Which one do you think?
The 780?
Yeah.
It wasn't that hard to switch over. We are in the process of getting all of our ducks in a row because I think we're going to cut some soybeans around noon, weather permits. As I said the other day, predictably unpredictable. We're taking the drive over pit because we're going to set an auger to the bean bin. This nice little contraption here will allow us to load the auger with the semis without having to push the swing away back and forth. We'll set the swing away under that end. The semis will just go over this, dump into here. Whoa, up! Typically we put corn in these 5 south bins, and in the north bin we put beans. Just the way we've always done it. So that's why we're setting up here to load some beans. I'm not even sure if this is going to be a 2 combine day, but I still need to get this S670 out so I can get to my grain cart parked right behind here. Carefully backing him out. Seems like it's the umpteenth time that I've moved these combines in and out of this barn. You just start leaving them outside. Now you guys want to talk about family bonding. Watching Dad and my Uncle Jeff argue about where to set the drive over pit, that's entertainment. This looks like a good out of the way spot. Park brake set so the combine doesn't run away on us. Key off so it doesn't have any energy to do so, and we're out. First time setting the drive over pit this season, and they've already had to relocate it after the initial placement. They've been using that thing for 7 to 8 years now. They can never quite seem to visualize where they want it till they have it all set up, then they have to relocate it a little bit to get it exactly where they want. That is what I want, so I'm gonna back that out real quick. stop and get some goodies. Voila! The tractor is exactly how I liked it. I installed an easy steer. I'm addicted to these little nubs. They make steering so much easier. This is the second tractor I've put it in. If I drive the combines this year, I'm gonna be looking for this thing because it's just so nice to steer with. Added my iPad for entertainment purposes at this point. Obviously, I've got my auto steer here. Got my camera, my scales. I set up my 40-watt radio. Unfortunately, I've got the bracket, but I lost these little screws, so I'm either gonna have to find them, run it like this all year, or zip tie it up. Either way, 40 watts set up. I've got it hooked up to the second little nub on the tractor, just a little 3 decibel gain antenna. The 6 decibel gain tall antenna is on the way. We'll put it up there when we get it. Unfortunately, this tractor did not have the wiring for the 2-way radios like the combine did. I looked and I looked, I checked for the cap on the roof. Nothing that convenient, so we're gonna have to work with that. Pretty good spot. I think if I put the antenna up there, it'll be fine. We're pretty much ready to rock and roll though. Isn't this crescent wrench adorable? You've got the big brother right here that tackles most tasks. You got the little one here that does small jobs. And then of course, every operation's got the big daddy. It's not here, but it's probably twice the size, if not 3 times the size of this one. Oh, we can't forget the most important part of our preparations in the grain cart, the shovel, for when accidents are made by the combine driver. I would never make an accident. That's to take care of everyone else, not myself. Well, folks, it looks like we're ready to disappoint some combine operators. Overperforming and exceeding expectations really isn't the mantra of a grain cart driver. We got to do enough to keep the trucks running, but not enough to keep the combines running. Or at least that's what they'll say when they're stopped. It's usually our fault. I've got one more radio nub to install to bridge the gap until we get those 6 decibel gain antennas. So that's what we're gonna do. Why couldn't the 9460R have had this? There's just no way that this grain tank unfolded isn't going to cause a lot of interference on this antenna, or that a tree branch isn't just going to rip it off going down the road. But should get us by until the big one comes. Communication received! I'm not entirely sure how much power those radios use just sitting there. I'd prefer to just leave the radios on at all times so the operators don't forget to turn them back on if they shut them off. So I don't know if we need to be turning the battery off on the combine every time we leave. You'd hate to have a set of dead batteries on your combine just for the sake of communication. The S670 is going to stay here just like this. We're not going to prematurely take off the corn head. I'm not entirely sure what the game plan is, so there's no reason to remove that. The S780, other than switching it over, is pretty much ready to go. Corn head is off, ready to hook up to a draper. The only tried and true way to actually evaluate your soybeans is to go out and cut a sample. You can't really do an ear test like you can on corn, so if you want to know what it's going to do, you hook up the draper, you cut some beans, you see what the monitor tells you. Oh man, my truck is messy right now. A lot of radio equipment. I've got 4 handheld radios, 2 more 15-watt radios. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those. Handhelds are probably going to go with the truck drivers, and I may keep an extra on me just to communicate with the combine operator. I've got a pipe wrench. I have no idea why that's not in my toolbox. Just kind of a chaotic time of year for the employees, for the equipment, and especially for our tools and our vehicles. I need a good housekeeper. Do any of you have any recommendations other than myself? The most effective way to get your beans to dry faster is to go eat lunch. I don't know why that is, but it works, and that's what we're going to do. There's the grain train being loaded at Tate & Lyle here at Cole Station. Looks like there's about 100 cars. Oh my gosh, thank goodness we're not picking corn. That line's out to the road. We can't even keep up with our combines and corns when our trucks aren't held up, let alone if they're in the elevator line for an hour. There's probably 30 trucks there, all for that half-price drawing. That would be absolutely miserable to endure for both the truck drivers and the combine operators. Every single combine that's attached to one of those trucks is probably sitting at the field full right now. If anything is going to turn you off from picking higher moisture corn than you'd like to other than the drying cost, that line at the elevator will definitely do so. I was just chatting with another farmer in the area who was picking corn and taking it there, and he said that he was 25th in line, hadn't moved in 10 minutes, and thought maybe it was going to take an hour to get through there. When elevators dangle that half-price drying carrot in front of farmers, a lot of them bite. It's pedal to the metal. It seems like every single farmer and their brothers out there right now with trucks in line at Cole Station. But that is the entire purpose of that incentive. They've got a probably 100-car train to fill, maybe 3,400 bushels per train, 340,000 bushels. They say they're gonna have it done by the end of the day. They just started this morning. I bet you they're done by 7 or 8 o'clock. With that many trucks coming through, they're probably processing 40 or 50,000 bushels per hour. Time to sample some beans. Unfortunately, sometimes you gotta block the road to do that.
It's not ready. Oh, you set the track?
And when you hooked it up, it asked for 34.5 feet. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Let's fire it up. Oh, hopper. Hopper's not open.
Well, it won't start without the hopper open.
Yeah, well, you would have figured it out. Click it.
Open. Ready for everything?
Ready as we'll ever be. Got a sample. Just under 11% moisture. Pretty dry. We're only a couple acres into harvesting this field, and it's already pretty evident based on the July we had that the higher ground areas are going to be much higher yielding than lower ground areas, which will be good for some of our farms and bad for some of our farms. There's about a 30 or 40 bushel disparity between the low to high.
Okay. Go get the auger wagon.
Ooh. My favorite words, don't get the auger wagon. This is the moment that every grain cart driver looks forward to. Oh my gosh, there's a bald eagle flying up there. I can barely see him with my eyes, but the camera's definitely not going to pick him up. He's circling over the farm right there. Very clearly has a white tail. That's awesome. That is the most American way to start harvest right there. Bald eagle circling the farm. Oh, that's sweet. Wow. That's how I feel when I see a bald eagle. Like, I need to take my hat off and put my hand over my heart. You really couldn't ask for a better way to start soybean harvest other than better yields. John Deere farm equipment, bald eagles, that's America. Let's roll! Oh, don't know why those are on. Time to go catch some beans. Highway to the danger zone, danger zone. It's my time to shine. The beans on top actually look a little wet. Do this. Now isn't really the best time to be concerned about whether or not I shut the trap door. I don't see any beans, but that doesn't mean they're not spilling out. Well, let's take a leap of faith and assume that it's closed. No hiccups on our first dump. Let's pull away. I guess I get to sit here and wait. And I'm a good employee. I won't put hours on the machine. Wait on him to fill up. Got the combine one more time. We got close to a full load of beans on. Let's see how we do dumping for the first time this year. Make sure I get lined up right. I don't remember how far away I need to be. Move that a little bit. I like to shift down to first or second gear. We'll do first. We want to keep track of our weights here. I'm basically our scales. Throttle all the way down, engage PTO, throttle up, and open her up. I've got those backwards, I think, of where they used to be. Oh, back in the saddle, baby. Dumping some beans. Looks like the boss is coming to inspect my work. I better shape up. And we're done. Definitely room for more, but it's my first dump of the year. PTO off. 47,760. 2 combines running in decent corn is more than enough for one grain cart. 1 combine in decent beans is kind of underwhelming for me. Unless I'm headed to the semi to dump off a load, I do a lot of sitting. I'm trying to figure out what the most comfortable position is here. Probably should have brought my lawn chair. Just every time, throw it out there, sit down, enjoy the weather, get some bean dust in my nose, get some allergies. All the fun things associated with harvest season and fall. Oh yes, that is the physical embodiment of allergies out there. Look at all that bean dust. I saw something really interesting that you can do from the John Deere Operations Center involving the 4600 display. Oh, look at that. John Deere knows where we are and they know our throughs. So I can click on the S780 here. He's running 5 miles an hour, doesn't know his fuel, and it says he's headed north. And he is in fact headed north. But we go in here and we hit this little button right here, which is the screen share, and then it should pop up his main screen of the 4600 processor. Oh yeah. Oh, those beans aren't very good. 60 bushels, 10% moisture, 23 gallons of fuel an hour. There's his combine settings. That's pretty neat. You can see the disparity in yield. We got 70 bushels jumping up to 75. When we get up on the hill over there, those are very likely to be 100+ bushel beans. Drainage is going to be big this year. It was big last year. Anyone farming in Central Illinois who tries to argue with you that tile doesn't pay is lying. I still haven't convinced the boss to invest the money on more robust tile patterns out here to drain these farms. I think we'd be looking at 10 plus bushel advantage on soybeans. This year that'd be over $100 an acre, which would make that tile payment in 3 or 4 years. It's not cheap to lay pipe, but it does pay. Oh, pollutants inbound! Ah! As the grain cart driver, it's my job to always be 2 steps ahead of the combine, even if you don't know what the combine is going to do. So I wait here for my next load. With this field averaging 10 to 11% moisture right now, it's actually a little bit drier than we'd like to harvest at. We probably should have came out here earlier in the day and started cutting them when they're a little bit wetter. 13% is that optimal window. That is the moisture you can take it to the elevator and not get docked at all. We aren't going to a commercial elevator though, we're going to our own grain bin. That gives us a little more leeway with the moistures we harvest at. Harvesting 2 to 3% below the optimal levels is about a 3 to 4% yield loss because of that extra moisture that you're giving up. That's added weight that you did not capture. However, we're putting these in a grain bin, and if we get into a wetter spot of the field that's 14 or 15%, or go to another field that's 14 or 15%, soybeans will actually average out. So if half the bin was 10% beans and half the bin was 15% beans, it would come out at 12.5%. Obviously that's still too dry, but that's better than 10% beans. That's one of the really nice perks about harvesting soybeans into a grain bin. And of course, you're not waiting an hour at the elevator. There's definitely still a lot of green plant material here. We are leaving a few pods that we're not successfully thrashing off of the stem, but it looks like that one just didn't get cut off all the way. There's quite a few beans on the ground here. I don't know if we need to play with our harvest settings or if that's head loss. Highly unlikely that's head loss because those drapers are very efficient in terms of capturing grain. The reel on the draper though may be spinning faster than it should be for how fast he's cutting, essentially beating the beans out of the pod before they even get across the cutter bar. There's that yield disparity I'm talking about. We're on a slope right now running 80, 90, maybe even 100 bushel beans. As it gets into the lower areas, you're gonna see that yield drop off. Triple digit bean yields are very impressive. It gets leveled out pretty quickly though when it gets into the darker ground that isn't drained as well. I didn't quite notice the difference in corn, but I can definitely see that unloading auger moving a lot more grain in soybeans. We're closer to the lower side of the farm, and you can see the yields really reflecting the drainage problems, or at least the significance they're playing this year. We're in the 60 to 70 bushel range, sometimes 50, sometimes 80. Hopping around. I like to take my time during soybean harvest because once corn harvest hits, I'm going to be driving around like a chicken with my head cut off. My second semi-load was within 60 pounds of my first one. Can you tell that I'm experiencing the grain cart? Actually, it has nothing to do with that. I'm just very lucky. Hey, you know you're having a pretty good day when you coincidentally decide not to pick corn and there happens to be an hour wait at the elevator, you see a bald eagle, and you load 2 trucks within 60 pounds of each other, which is 1 bushel. Maybe I need a lottery ticket. And a souvenir. For it being the first day out with the new combine and draper and soybeans, everything's running relatively smoothly, or at least up to this point. Dad's been playing around with the automation settings that kind of automatically adjust the combine. Seems to be doing well, but there's always improvements to be made. I've dumped 6 loads with the grain cart so far, haven't spilled a single bean. Dad's already ran some beans off. I don't know if it was off the back or if he slowed down too much. Regardless though, we gotta do some scooping already. Good thing we put the shovel on. Man, it is hard to find good help. We may just have to let Dad go. That's more than my hourly wage. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to hit the brakes on this field. Other than this remaining strip right here, those soybeans on the hill are not quite dry enough or mature enough to harvest. A lot of green stems and pods out there. 1, they won't process good, and 2, those beans will just be very mushy. You'd rather wait for them to dry a little bit. Again, this really reiterates the fact that that higher, lighter ground is not going to mature as fast as the lower, darker ground. Although in this case, the productivity of the lower soil isn't actually the biggest factor here. I really think that all the water damage on the south end, the low-lying, poorly drained areas, cause those beans to die off faster with less yield potential than the ones on the hill that are actually running pretty good. When we can get out and cut those are going to be 90 to 100 bushel beans versus 50, 60, maybe 70 if we're lucky in the trenches out there. Maybe if my dad's feeling remorseful, he'll bring that combine and draper over here and we can just shovel those beans straight into the head as opposed to me having to artillery them into the top of the wagon. Not only are they very dirty, they're also very heavy and I'm not very accurate, or at least not this early in the season. And I'd like to think that I won't be much better by the time we're done harvesting for the year, because I won't spill much grain. Not much grain at all. Last up of the field, and it's quite a full hopper. That combine empties the tank pretty fast. When you're done, come over here to your mess and we'll just shovel those beans straight into the draper. The last through of the field, or at least this portion of the field. Not really sure when we'll come back and get the other chunk. We will eventually. I wasn't planning on needing the shovel so soon. Glad I have it though. I'm sure if we had a case combine, we wouldn't have to clean that up. Not because there wouldn't have been grain on the ground, but you case guys are so used to your entire field being covered with soybeans, you just don't mess with little things like that. Dad's headed to unhook his head and I'm going to dump off these soybeans. We're going to leave this field. This entire time I've had this remote backwards the way I wanted it to be. I usually do push out to open, pull in to close the gate, and it's been backwards. I didn't realize when I hooked it up that I did it the other way all these other years, and my muscle memory is still here from the last 5 harvests. My finger's just wanting to do its own thing. That is on 1. Pop those open. Already oily and bean dusty. That didn't take long. The young gal barely even went for a jog and she's already thirsty. Meanwhile, I may have used a sliver of my fuel tank at the 9460R. Apples to oranges though. I'm going to try and make a point this year and actually showcase our yields and maybe talk agronomics, why we saw the results we saw, or explain anything that seems explainable. Sometimes things out here on the farm are exactly the opposite, which is unexplainable. Let's take a quick look at the yield map from that farm on John Deere Operations Center. It's already uploaded because that S780 has a 4G modem that connects with the servers, puts the data up to the cloud very quickly so we can look at it here in the grain cart. We harvested 71.4 acres and the field average according to the combine was 74.5 bushels per acre. Average moisture was 10.5, highest being 11.7, lowest being 9.5. Either way, that's drier than you want, but you'd rather have them harvested than wait for them to get wetter. The yield results here show a very clear trend. The north end of the farm is much higher yielding than the south end. According to our color scale, green is very high, 95 to 100 plus. Red is what I would call poor, 57 is what we have here. But anything red is not producing that well. There is a very cut and dry explanation to what's going on in this field. If I were to overlay or compare an elevation map to the yield map, you're going to very clearly see that the highest yielding areas are also the highest elevations. I believe we also have some pattern tile here on the southwest end, which probably helped our yield. We didn't even cut the best part of this farm for the year, which I believe will fall in the 80 to 90 bushel range. It's the low areas that are really going to hurt us. Overall, 74 to 75 bushel beans are pretty good given the prices. I wish they'd been better, but it's the best we can do with the circumstances we had. It's just another one of a million data points that shows drainage pays. No draper gets left behind. The old 735 FD ran pretty good for its first day out. Very unusual that you take something new to the field and doesn't have all sorts of problems. I guess we just hammered those out in the preparation stage. I figured that it would probably be wise to transfer my window riding onto an actual ticket. I don't think there's really a chance of it just running away on me or disappearing, unless of course the window breaks. But we harvested 5,135 bushels of beans. I estimated that we cut about 68 or 69 acres, so 74 bushels an acre is about accurate. Can't really complain with those yields. Ooh, I found my screws to mount my 40-watt radio. First day with the new Midland radio setup went pretty smoothly. Can't recommend their products enough, guys. If you're in the market, go shop on Midland. All passengers, please exit the vehicle. The ride is over. Everything's nice and peaceful at the farm. Machines back home. Pretty excited for harvest season. Today was definitely a good start to soybean harvest. We weren't even hitting it whole hog, only had the S780 out in the field. Tomorrow we're gonna have the S670. We're gonna cut some more beans, or hopefully cut some more beans. Dad switched it all over, so it's ready to go, took the corn head off. I'm excited for what the future holds. Hopefully the crops improve from here. If this is our worst field, that'd be for the best. Highly unlikely, but I try to stay optimistic. Regardless though, I think that's enough farming for one video. I appreciate you all tuning in. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!